So, welcome to our podcast. Welcome to the topic podcasting. Today, we're talking about how can you record a podcast with relatively easy tools. If you are a smaller church and you want to spread your messages from your celebrations, you can use a variety of tools. I'm going to show you some techniques today, how you can deliver your podcast to like Spotify or iTunes in a very easy and convenient way. So let's start. Currently, we are, as a church, hosting our podcasts on our own. We're hosting them on an FTP server. The benefit from that is that we can store them by ourselves. We can integrate them on our website. But I think the main channels of our listeners are on Spotify or on iTunes. So one tool that's really cool about getting your podcast hosted is Anchor. Anchor is a great tool for podcast hosting. So you get their unlimited free hosting. That's pretty cool. You can distribute your content to different platforms like, as I said, Spotify, Google Podcast, whatever you like. And it's free. It's free to use. It's pretty straightforward. And I'm going to show you how to use this tool today. So let's start with our dashboard. You can create a free account on Anchor if you'd like, and when you're logged in, you see here your podcast. I titled it "My Church, How Creative." You have here your description, your URL on Anchor, so you can also listen to the podcast on Anchor as well. But I think the interesting part comes when it's on Spotify or on iTunes. So you have several options to configure your the visual of your podcast or the metadata, whatever you'd like. Another important part is down here, the RSS feed. That's what you're gonna need to configure Spotify and iTunes. So here you can create your own cover for your podcast. That's the image that's displayed on iTunes and Spotify. Those tools we're gonna look at today. You can choose an image from their library. You can also use your own JPEG or whatever file format you have. You can just upload it and configure your logo for your podcast. So when that's done, you can switch over to episodes, and over here your episodes are listed. It's pretty clean dashboard. You can just add a new episode by adding. There you have 4 different options. You have the record options, so you can deliver your podcast right from the browser window or from your iPhone or Android device. That's possible as well. But you can, how most of you probably are going to use it, upload your file. So that's what we're going to look at today. Click on upload and have here an MP3 file ready. That's one of a message from a few Sundays ago. I'm just gonna click upload, and it's being uploaded to Anchor where it's being hosted. So while it's uploading, we can check what we have else. So here you have messages. Messages can be used if you would like to integrate like some of your listeners' feedbacks into the podcast. I haven't used that before, but I think it's a really neat and cool feature. What you also have is your library, and as soon as this file is uploaded, it's going to appear here in our library. And that's also cool if you have like an opener for your podcast, like where you say hello and you welcome the audience, or if you have a clip on the end where you would like to promote something, that's files there that are stored right here. You also have fancy transitions if you would like to add them between segments, like this one. Really fancy, cool. Yeah, those are a few gadgets that you get with Anchor. What's also possible, I think, you don't want to use this, is a sponsored segment. You can add this to your podcast if you would like to earn money with it, but I think that's not the main focus of this audience right here. So I'm going to remove it. That's like a few seconds of advertisement that Anchor is putting into your podcast. If you want to, you don't have to. It's optional. So we're going to skip this. Now, if you go back to our library, we should see this when we upload or when we save the episode. Save as not really saving as draft, so we have to give it a title. So this was our series Between Us. Then you give here the topic, and yeah, I think that will be it. You can also add a speaker if you want to. So, and here you can add a description to your podcast. It's required. So that's after that you will find the description in iTunes and Spotify as well. Here you can like get some notes about the message. I'm just gonna leave this like this description. As well, you have like publish date when you want your podcast to go online. You can plan it to a certain date and a certain time. I'm just gonna leave it for the publish date for now. You have another few options to customize your content, and I'm gonna just save it as a draft. Now it's not released yet. For this, I have to publish it. That's been done over here. So if you go back to episodes, you see our episode. I'm gonna go to dashboard, I think. Over here, yeah, here we go. Here's our podcast. It's not published yet, so there is still this lock over here, and when we go into it, we will like check it for short. So that's being released, published now. Now you also get statistics of your podcast, how much it's been played. So now the lock is gone. So that's the part of hosting. We can also share the Anchor link for you to show how this looks like. Here's my podcast, and if we click in, it starts playing. You can also integrate those podcasts into your website with an iframe if you want to. That's really optional. So now let's get to the interesting part. We have our podcast configured on Anchor. Now what we need for configuring Spotify and iTunes is our RSS feed URL, and you can find this if you go to dashboard here on edit, and down here under advanced you have the RSS URL, and that's like an XML file with your podcasts in a text form in a very simple way. So what we're gonna do is copy our URL, head over to Spotify. You can register yourself. You just need to create an account. It's podcasters.spotify. .spotify.com. So let's get started. Here you paste your RSS feed into it. Spotify is then going to check if your podcast meet the guidelines, correct? And you have also the data which we entered on Anchor. So you have the title, you have the cover, everything you need. Next, you want to select where your podcast is made. There's a few options. I'm gonna take here Switzerland, your primary podcast. This one is in English. Podcast provider. Here we go with Anchor. Primary category. Let's see if we can get it to our right category. We have, I think, religion, spirituality. That meets our podcast. All right. So here you have like a review of your podcast, and then when you hit submit, it's being submitted to Spotify. It takes a few days to it's just a few hours for your podcast to show up. If you go back to the track, you have here also statistics on your podcast. It takes this one. I think this one takes a few days to for it being generated, but that's fine. So that's the part with Spotify. It's really simple. You just need your RSS feed, which you get from Anchor. And with this RSS feed, you can also go to iTunes Connect. iTunes Connect is the platform where you can add the podcasts for iTunes. So let's add one. I just created an account, which just timed out. So after reloading, I have here the same procedure. I can paste my RSS feed into iTunes. Click on validate and hope that it's fine, and it seems to be fine. You have all your data that you entered into Anchor right here again, and the episode that we added a few minutes ago. So that would be it. Just hit submit, and your podcast is being submitted for review. Also here you have a few hours or a few days, I'm not sure. Just submit it, and it's being reviewed. And after that, you get an email, and your podcasts are online on Spotify and on iTunes. If you switch over to Spotify and search for your podcast, that's the one of ICF Zurich, which I've added. You see your episodes right from Anchor, and your cover that you defined. I think it's a really cool way to connect Anchor to Spotify and iTunes. It's quite simple, and you get a lot out of it. So you just configure your Anchor, and then you spread it to the different platforms. So those were just two examples of where you can put your podcast onto. But you feel free to add it to other services you'd like. There are great possibilities over here. So if you have any questions, just write it down in the comment section. I'm happy to help you if I can. So yes, it's a great tool. Everything here shown it's free. So if you are just starting, or if you just want to try something, you can just create those accounts. You need a Spotify account, you need an iTunes account, and an Anchor account. After that, you just need your file or your recording, and then you're good to go. So you have a few handy tools over here to start your podcasts, and I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions, just hit me up below, and see you next time.